by God, but that is a process. It's not a switch, it's a process. And it comes by this. You need to let God transform your thinking. You need to start thinking differently. You can't think like you used to think and be okay. The transformation happens by the renewing of your mind. And says, then you'll be able to prove what that good, acceptable, perfect will of God is. But you have to do all these steps in order. First of all, you have to really consider God's mercy. What did God do in your life? What did He withhold from you so that you're where you're at today? How come He didn't give you everything you deserve? Because if God gave us everything we deserve, none of us would be here. I promise you that. We just wouldn't. And He says, in lieu of that, I want you to present yourself to Him. Once again, the living sacrifice, they had to find the very best and offer it to Him. He said, I want every single day, just give God the best you got. Just give Him the best you got. And that's the sacrifice He's looking for. He just wants to know, the people who I'm redeemed, the people who I sent my Son to die for, do they appreciate what I did? Do they care enough about what I gave up for them that they would serve me? I gave the very best I had so they can be in heaven with me. Are they willing to give the very best back as a thank you? A living day. Are they willing to do that? Every single day, would they give the best that they have? That's how you find God's will. And then this transformation of our mind. See, there's a negative and a positive conforming. Almost everything has a negative and a positive, from battery terminals, everything else. There's a negative and there's a positive to every single situation. And so here's you have the negative, don't be conformed to this world, but the positive conforming is this. Romans 8:29, to whom He foreknew, He also predestined to be conformed to the image of His Son, that He might be the first among many brethren. So you're not supposed to be conformed to the world. Instead, you're supposed to be conformed into the image of His Son. See, the Spirit's job living inside you is to help shape you to be more and more Christ-like in every area of your life. That's what His job is. The Spirit of God is there, and He's wooing you. He's instructing you. He's bringing passage to your mind in every situation you find yourself in. God is telling you what to do and how to do it through the Spirit. And if you listen to it, He'll conform you to be more and more Christ-like. If you reject what the Spirit of God says, you're going to be conformed by the world. See, a conforming is taking place every single day. You're being conformed whether you say, I'm just not going to conform to anything. Oh, yes, you are. I promise you are. You can't not. You're either going to conform to the world, what it wants you to do, or you're going to come and let the Spirit of God conform you to be more like Christ. Change is taking place in you every single day. Is it a change for the better or a change for the worse? Is it a change to be more Christ-like, or is it a change to bring out the world's values in you? Then it says, okay, the conforming has to take place, but not to the world. But in order not to be conformed to the world, I've got to change the way I think. And that can only happen to the redeemed. You know the unredeemed can't do this. Those who don't know Jesus Christ can't change, can't renew their mind to think the way God thinks. It's impossible. They don't have the Spirit of God dwelling in them. They physically can't do that because they don't have the Spirit indwelling them. But we do. See, we're told in 1 Corinthians 2:16, for who has known the mind of the Lord that He may instruct him? But we have the mind of Christ. Where's the mind of Christ come from? When we received Jesus Christ our Savior, our thinking is able to be changed. We don't have to think the way we used to. We can see things differently. And I know I told you about that with my brother coming to know Christ. And it was so profound to me. My brother was very arrogant. He was very self-centered his entire life. It was all about him. And he called me up one day. I was sitting in my office and I had talked to him about Christ. Listen, for 18 years, I've tried to share Christ to him at different points in his life. And he just never wanted to hear anything I had to say. And that's okay. He didn't want to. But then I was there, and he called me out of the blue one day and says, "Hey, Joe, I just wanted to let you know, I thought you might be interested. I'm getting baptized Sunday." He's a bigger guy, got a deep voice. I said, "What?" "Yeah, I'm getting baptized Sunday. I thought you might want to know." I said, okay, that's good. But the skeptic in me didn't believe it. So I was like, okay, that's good. Well, what happened? He told me what happened. He said, "Well, me and my wife were riding around with a couple, and it was on Saturday, and they said, 'Hey, you want to go to church with us tomorrow?' My wife said, 'Yeah.' And I said, 'Okay.' Now, he hadn't been to church. I don't know when the last time he'd ever been. I never seen him in church. So he went to church. He started going to church with them. And going to church, it preached the gospel. He heard the gospel, and he accepted Christ. But I didn't know that, so I said, okay, what's been the biggest change in your life since you accepted Christ? I thought, surely this would be a marker for me. I would know if he didn't have an answer for that, then he's just getting baptized. And I don't want him to baptize and have a false sense of salvation. I want him to really have a heart change before he gets baptized. So I asked him a question, what's been the biggest change in your life since you accepted Christ? Here's what he said. "I see everything differently now." Wow. I said, "You got it." He's changed from the inside out. He doesn't look at things from the world's perspective anymore. He can see them from God's point of view now. He says, "I don't see things the same anymore." That only happens when you receive Jesus Christ, your Savior, and the Spirit of God comes in. He transforms your thinking. But what we have to understand, you can help the transformation take place by reading your Word, by praying, by fellowshipping, by doing good things, by listening to the Spirit of God when He comes in and speaks to you. You can help the transformation take place, or you can hinder it. Not every single Christian grows at the same rate. You understand that, right? They don't. Some want to get closer to God, and they do. Others are, okay, you know what? I'm going to heaven. I'll see you when I get there. And they want to live for themselves. It's called a carnal Christian, because they really are not concerned about God. They just want not to go to hell. But they're not really concerned about seeking God for their life. That's a scary place to be, but there's enough of them there that live in that place. He says, listen, if you really want to know my will, don't let the world shape you and mold you. Don't do that. Instead, would you be transformed? That means when it says be transformed, let the Spirit of Christ transform by renewing your mind. And when all these things take place, we resonate on the mercy of God and we give ourselves to Him. We give the very best we have. And we don't want to be shaped by the world, but we want to be transformed. We let our mind be renewed. We let it be transformed. It says, then you can tell what God's perfect will is for you. That's the only way you can see it. You have to go through these steps and God will reveal His will to you. But if you don't do those things, you won't see it. You'll walk right past it. Have you ever seen someone be oblivious to something around them, walk right past something they should be paying attention to? You know, we had things happen, and I remember one of our trips we went to Costa Rica. We took Ariel there, and we went to the mile-long market. You know, the mile-long market, it's a whole bunch of pop-up tents, a mile long. It's literally a mile long. They have two sets of tents in the middle and tents on the outside and passing lanes go all the way through. And you enter in the center and you can look uphill and it goes all the way up that way, half a mile, and all the way up that way, half a mile. When you come in the middle, like this, they call it mile-long market, and it's a mile long. We were there and it's shoulder to shoulder. You're trying to get, and they have everything you want is there. You just have to find the right tent. It's there, just find it. And we were walking through there and all of a sudden it opened up. It's a big circle opened up. You know why it opened up? Because someone was mad with the vendor. He took a machete. He started swinging at the vendor, crazy. And everyone stepped back. Everyone except one person, my daughter. She was standing there. I mean, she was like, from me to Andrew, stand there. I had to grab her and pull her back. I said, what are you doing? She said, I ain't never seen anything like that before. I said, you don't have to see it so close. She froze. She just didn't know what to do. She was in shock. She had never seen another being take a machete and want to kill somebody with it right up front and personal. some of us are right there, frozen up, not doing what we need to do, not giving ourselves to God. We're letting fear hold us back. What is stopping you from doing what Romans 12:1 and 2 says today? What is stopping you from just focusing on everything God has ever done good for you? First of all, just think about everything that God has done for you. Start there. And they say, after all He's done for me, how can I not give Him the very best I have? How can I not present myself to Him and say, Lord, it's all of me? See, listen, I'm giving you everything I have. I'm not making any exclusions. I'm not any exemptions. I'm not putting any prenups in it. I'm just saying, here I am. I'm just going to give you everything I got. You can do whatever you want with it because I want you to have this. You created me in my mother's womb. You redeemed me. You sent your Son to die for me. And I have no right to hold on to anything that's yours. And you bought me with your Son's blood. I don't belong to me anymore. I belong to you. So I'm going to give you everything you paid for. Here I am. Here I am. Use me however you want. And then what I have to do is not let myself be pulled back into the world system and to do things the way the world wants me to do. Instead, I have to say, you know what, Lord, would you please help me? Would you, when you speak, I want to listen. I want to do things your way. I don't want to do things my way. Every time I do things my way, I make things worse. I want to do things your way. But that has to happen when our thinking is renewed and the transformation of our mind, and we start doing things God's way. You know what happens when you do those things? The will of God just appears because you can see it. The veil's taken off it. And you start doing things and people say, wow. Have you ever seen someone that's really close to God and you wonder, how come God keeps using them? Because they did Romans 12:1 and 2. They took God seriously. They started giving God their very best. They started letting their thinking be transformed. They started all these things happening. And they took God seriously. And they drew near to God. And when you do these things, James says, if you draw near to me, I'll draw near to you. If you start taking me seriously, if you start doing these things, if you start implementing them, if you present yourself to me as living sacrifice, if you give everything you got, the very best you got, and you keep yourself clean from the world, and you start following me and letting me change your thinking, things are going to go differently for you. Now, see, in the past, I always thought, well, I'll just do this and it'll get better. And before I was redeemed, I thought, well, and I'll move here, I'll do this, I'll get this job, I'll do that. The problem was everywhere I went, I was there. That was a problem. Everywhere I went, there I was. And I couldn't, you could try to run, but you can't run away from yourself. You don't have to run away from yourself to make a change. You have to give yourself to God to make a change. Because you can't change you like God can. You can't. You could try, but I promise you, you're going to get frustrated and overwhelmed. And it's not enough. You have to give everything you got to God. I say, Lord, here it is. You take it. You fix it. You make my life what it was. I want to do your will. I don't want to do the things I'm doing anymore. I don't like what I'm doing. I don't want to do those. I want to do what you want me to do. And if you tell me this is what I have to do, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to give myself to you. I'm going to do that. I'm going to serve you. I'm going to have my mind be conformed. I'm going to start thinking biblically instead of worldly. And a change is going to come about. And that's what I want. I don't want my life anymore. I want you to have it. I don't want to be in control anymore. I don't. I want you to control me. Would you make things the way you want to be? That happened the day I got saved. I had no idea what happened. See, I was at church and I was minding my own business and God spoke to me and He was right in everything He said. And I just remember getting up at the end of the service and going forward and I just gave God everything. That's it. I said, I don't want my life like it is anymore. I don't like it like it is and I can't fix it. So if I give it to you, you could do whatever you want. I'm just giving it to you. And I did. And things changed immediately. And they've not stopped changing since. But we have to come to that point. And we're going to be closing in prayer right now. And I'm going to give you the opportunity to do this thing also. That if you would just take this seriously.